Lily had always been full of energy, a little girl who loved running through the fields behind her home, laughing as the wind brushed against her face. But in a single moment, everything changed. A car accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. The doctors delivered the devastating news. She would never walk again. Her once bright spirit faded. She no longer laughed, no longer played. She spent her days staring out the window, watching the world move on without her. Her father, Mark, couldn't bear to see his little girl like this. He tried everything, therapy, books, even painting classes, but nothing could bring her back. Then one evening, as he walked home from work, he passed by a small animal shelter. A tiny golden retriever puppy sat in the corner, staring up at him with deep, knowing eyes. The shelter worker smiled and said, "That's Max, he's special. He seems to understand when people are hurting." Mark didn't hesitate. He knew this puppy was meant for Lily. The healing power of Max. The next morning, Mark wheeled Lily into the living room. Sitting there, with soft golden fur and a wagging tail, was Max. "What's this?" Lily asked. Mark replied, "This is Max. He's yours if you want him." Max didn't bark, didn't jump. He simply walked over and rested his head gently on her lap. Lily hesitated, then reached out, running her fingers through his fur. It was the first time in months Mark had seen even a flicker of life in her eyes. From that day forward, Max never left her side. He lay beside her wheelchair, watched her do schoolwork, and curled up at her feet during therapy. Every morning, he greeted her with soft licks on her hands, as if reminding her that he was there. One evening, Lily sat in her chair, staring out the window, whispering to Max, "Lily, I wish I could run again." Max lifted his head, his tail wagging. He trotted across the room, picked up a small rubber ball and dropped it in her lap. "Lily, Max, I can't." Lily frowned. Max nudged the ball closer, his eyes full of determination. Hesitant but curious, Lily picked up the ball and threw it lightly across the room. Max bounded after it and brought it right back, tail wagging. And then, for the first time in months, Lily laughed. It became their routine. Every day Lily threw the ball. Then she started reaching further, leaning forward, pushing herself more. Then one night everything changed. Mark was in the kitchen when he heard a loud thud, followed by Max barking frantically. He ran into the living room and froze. Lily was on the floor, looking up at him with wide, shocked eyes. "Lily, I felt something." Max stood beside her, licking her hands, nudging her gently. Mark helped her back into her chair, but something was different. Lily was no longer just surviving. She had hope. At therapy the next day, she told the doctor what had happened. He shook his head. "That's unusual. But if she's feeling something, we should test it." Day by day, something incredible happened. First, a tingling sensation in her legs. Then movement in her toes. The doctors were stunned. This wasn't supposed to happen. Max was there for every moment, encouraging her with his wagging tail and joyful barks. He would lick her hands when she moved her foot. He would sit beside her, patiently watching, as if he knew something no one else did. A miracle realized. Then came the moment no one expected. In the therapy room, the doctor looked at Lily. "Doctor, are you ready?" She nodded. Max sat at her feet, watching. She gripped the parallel bars, took a deep breath, and then she lifted her foot. One step, then another. Tears filled Mark's eyes. The therapist was speechless. Lily's eyes sparkled as she let out a breathless laugh. "I'm walking," she whispered. Max barked joyfully, jumping in circles around her. The power of unconditional love can transform lives in ways we often don't understand. It's a force that transcends barriers, heals wounds, and creates miracles. Months passed. Lily grew stronger. The girl who had been told she would never walk again now ran through the meadow behind her house, with Max racing beside her, barking happily. The doctors never found an explanation, but Mark knew. Max hadn't just been a pet, he had been her hope, her strength, her miracle. Sometimes the most powerful healers don't have medical degrees. Sometimes they have 4 legs, a wagging tail, and a heart full of love.